Okay, everybody, welcome back. Once again, me, Nikolai, entering the Matrix and seeing what's on the other side. Maybe something, maybe nothing. How are you?
Great. I enjoyed our pre-recording chat. It was fun.
Some
Hi, everyone.
days, some days, everybody, I think we need to secretly record our pre-game chats because
That's
my
actually a good
God, some of
idea.
the stuff that we go into, I'm like, we should have been recording this. This would have been
Okay.
great stuff for people
Why,
to
why,
listen
why
to.
don't we do this? We hit record, we chat, then we hit stop, then we record an episode, and then we decide what to do with pre-recording. We can play with that.
That could be the play.
Yeah.
So, as we all know, I tend to bring to Nikolai whatever is top of mind for me in my life, geopolitically, world at large, or just thoughts that tend to be running through my mind. And so this week I want to discuss change work. And what I want to ask you, Nikolai, is, well, first of all, why do some people change
Hmm.
and others never do? Right? Like looking through the lens of the Matrix, why do some people who want to change or they want to have a different experience of life never achieve it, right? Like even when they want it, just they're always rolling snake eyes, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As usually, my answer will be there are a few situations here to unpack. And the first situation is I've seen a lot of people who say they want to change, but it's not genuine. And so that's going to be a scenario number one when the desire to change is not genuine. There's like no matter how many coaches, I don't know, healers, therapists you're going to hire, that will not happen. And part of that genuine desire to change, there's another aspect to it. First aspect is genuine desire to change. Second, very, very important aspect, I would even put it as a higher priority than the first one, is taking responsibility for your life and the change. So there is a tendency for many people to try to outsource change. Well, I'm paying you, I don't know, $2,000 a session, and you're supposed to be helping me change. And that's your responsibility as a coach to change me. When that energy exists, the change will not happen. And when we work with people, like the first thing we tell them, this is 50-50 work. Our job is to explain as well as possible and do whatever else in our abilities. Let's say adjust people's energetic structures, heal them, blah, blah, blah. We'll do whatever is possible on our end, the instruments we have. But then you have to do your 50%, which is, first of all, take full responsibility for your life, that you are creator of your life, not us, not some government or, I don't know, parents who brought you up, a society, a civilization. You're the only person responsible for your life. And hence, you're in charge of everything. You're creator of your life. Yes, we can remove some blockages, but ultimately the person has to make a choice, a new choice to implement the change. So, for example, we can come in through explaining to a person's mind, explain what is harmonious, what is the new harmonious worldview. Then we can do a bunch of energetic work to remove energetic barriers per se. But if a person does not choose to live differently now, in alignment with what we explained, with this new vector and this new worldview, then all this work that was done is irrelevant. The person goes back to the original state. So, hence, number one, take responsibility for life. You are the only person who is in charge and a creator of your life. Number two, genuine change. Do you desire genuinely to change? Because there's I've seen clients, and we had those clients, we don't work with them anymore, who only wanted the feeling of being energized and the clarity after sessions with us, because every time, and it's just not us, like anybody who has, we were just discussing it on before the call, anybody who has a session with you, even if you don't say a single word, your energetic capability is to cleanse them. And as you cleanse them, they get energized, and they start feeling more clarity. So anybody who comes up from our sessions as well feel that, and they get addicted to that state. So some people are just going into all these types of sessions just to give that heroin boost. And the reason I call it heroin boost, because it becomes addiction to that for them. They go to all types of practitioners, either therapists, I don't know, spiritual healers, everything from Western modality to Eastern modality. If a Western modality person is good at what they do, that meaning they're supposed to be therapists, they're in alignment. They by just have like being in their presence, they will either remove negative energy or charge them with energy, or do both. And of course, both will give the state of being a bit alleviated from heaviness, depression, I don't know, confusion, fogginess, and as well as will give a boost in energy. If you receive a boost in energy, you get energized, you feel like you're fresh, and etc. There's a huge subset of people go to all these coaching or transformational modalities purely to get a boost, but never to change. And because they've experienced few of those sessions, and they're like, oh, I feel good after them, so I should keep going. But there's no real genuine desire to actually do anything except getting a boost. And they are basically what they're doing. They're energetically consuming the coach, the therapist, or whatever, offloading garbage to them and taking their energy. And that's why if coaches / therapists don't understand the underlying technicalities of the flow of energy, a lot of therapists, coaches, and etc. burn out and start having major issues of their own, because without understanding the type of client they're working with, if they predominantly attracted, let's call them energetic vampires as clients, that coaching practice or therapy practice or whatever will not be successful, as they will have to constantly take vacations because, or their health will start having trouble. They're going to start having trouble with health and etc. So those are the two. Those are the two big ones why people do not change.
Yeah, so you said there about the desire aspect. So when the person doesn't have genuine desire,
Yeah.
do you think some of it is coming from either subpersonalities where they think maybe that they should have change, or from egregores or the like, or is it just that they want to have that boost without doing any of the work?
Everybody is everybody's wired to survive, right? Life wants to survive. So this is a survival dynamic. When a person is not feeling well, they're willing to try anything and everything to feel less dead and to feel more alive, energized, clarity, etc., less depressed, less anxious, and etc. So, however, where the challenge is, the modern society has ingrained on a deep subconscious level to majority of population the concept of buying a pill or buying a solution that solves problems. So as a result, most people, when they're shopping for change or shopping for boost, they're shopping for that injection or a pill rather than willing to do the actual work. And we've seen how that works. You want to lose weight? Okay, you can shoot a Zempic. Okay, billion side effects. Does it work? It does work. There's billion of side effects. Oh, I really want to change because I want to feel happier. In reality, what a person is saying, sell me a pill so that I feel happier. Either it's a coaching session where, you get energetically cleansed and boosted, so you do feel that, But in reality, a person was never ready to, they were only ready to consume. They were not ready to do the work on themselves. And it's one of the biggest traps for most people. They just keep going in circles because they keep buying pills, because they were never ready in the first place. And by the way, in no way I'm like trying to blame those people, because huge subset of those people have been trained from childhood to buy pills rather than make fundamental changes in their lifestyle, in their behavior, in their worldview, because those are the harder path, where you sit down, you actually, lay out a plan. Hey, if somebody has, I don't know, addiction to alcohol, what is the plan here? Like, okay, I'll go to AA, I'll do the work, I'll do the hard work, I'll find other modalities, and
Yeah.
I'll go through all of those steps. Somebody has, well, coming back to the diet issue, it's like, if you're not willing to do anything, but you want to just a pill, like you're not willing even to go to a gym, or continue research to figure out what's the root cause specifically for your body to accumulate weight, right? Try different modalities, try different things, and etc., and continue pursuing on that. Then nothing can help you at the end of the day. Yeah, you can buy a pill now, you can buy a shot, a Zempic shot. I'll tell you that you're not sticking around on this planet for too long, because you have not taken responsibility for your life. You have not indicated any kind of well, there could be an indication of sovereignty in some other parts of life, but the person to stay on this planet through this transition has to become sovereign, has to take full responsibility for their life, and said, I'm responsible for everything in my life, for my weight, for my addictions, for my problems in a relationship, for my issues with work. I take full responsibility, and I'm going to prioritize them, and I'm going to start taking steps to resolve one by one. In the beginning, it will be fucking overwhelming. And because some people just been living in this pill buying mode and never addressing root causes. And then when you start doing inventory of all areas of life, of where they are, where they stand, in the beginning, it could be really depressing. And it's okay. Get through that depression, accept it, make the list, accept that's where I stand now. It's never too late to start. I've seen people start transformation in their 50s and 60s. I've started my transformations when I was 33, and seems like my, let's call it, the juicy part of my life of building companies and having infinite amount of energy was over, because it was literally over. I couldn't even get out of bed. I was like depressed and anxious and panic attacks and etc., etc. So it's never too late to start. And when I wrote the list, the inventory list of where my life stands, my marriage, my business, relationship with my parents, friends, all of it sucked, with exception of the business was skyrocketing. But even that COVID fixed. It went to like, luckily I was out of the business by then, and I've already transitioned out, because I was like, I gotta resolve everything related to my life. So I started at 33. There was no issue.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to point out, uh, don't ask me why, but 33 master number.
Yeah. But for many people, it's like they call it Jesus age.
Yeah.
If you haven't got your shit together, then if you really need to awaken at 33, Matrix will deliver such events and news where there will be no other option but to awaken. And I
Yeah.
started awakening earlier, but I was not paying attention. I was preoccupied with buying pills, if I go to more expensive hotels where I get pampered more, I pay neuropsychologists to put all types of devices to give me clarity boost. Dude, like the number of Zoom calls I did with IV drips connected to my vein, and people were freaking out. What's going, like, I'm literally sitting in like a call with 20 people, and I was like, there's like a line going, and they're like, what is going on? I was like, guys, don't worry. I just want to be top performing leader. In reality, I was buying a pill. I was not willing to make fundamental changes in my life. I was boosting myself. And by the way, those IV drips, man, I didn't need to sleep for multiple days.
Oh,
I was
wow.
so jacked. I had so much energy. I was so clear. I would sleep for an hour or two, but I was taking out mortgage on my health.
Yeah.
And then it all came to an end. It came crushing. And it took me so long to recover all these internal systems that were originally working quite well. Okay, some of them were maybe not working well, but I took it to the next level, either them not working at all because I was putting external boosts, uh, or they were like working like 5%, like had to start from scratch, allow my body to restore, to reset, and etc. And that state that I inherited, this body that I inherited by then, was not functional. It was not functional. The only thing you could do is spend a bunch of time in bed and like go for walks, maybe a swim. Like couldn't even exercise properly and do the sports that I love. So that's an example of consuming pills, and that's applicable to physical body, applicable to mental state, psychological, emotional state, applicable to everything.
Yeah, it's funny because listening to you say that, uh, I felt like in some ways you're also speaking to me. Like I could remove the pills part with like noticing aspects of my business where I don't take sovereignty, and then it's like um it's the same thing. It's like all these things are falling apart, and you start looking for the where okay, what's the quick fix pill, metaphorically speaking, right?
Sooner or
So
later, you got to face the music and
yeah,
look at the core.
yeah,
And the
and that
sooner people start looking, make inventory, start looking at the core, the sooner they can get to a place where there's no stress in life. Like right now, I don't really have stress in life. It's just, and you asked me today how I'm feeling. I was like, well, I'm fine. I'm fine. And you're usually not used to hearing this from me.
yeah,
And it's because, yeah, I'm going through major energetic transformations, or actually physical transformation as well. So, yeah, my body doesn't feel comfortable here and there. That's as far as I feel stress when I go through upgrades. But I know where it's taking me, because once the upgrade is over, I'm even happier. I'm even more like unshakable, confident, etc., etc. But it's discomfort of growth rather than discomfort of debt.
mm, yeah. Like even thinking about when you guys do the meditation activation for people,
Yeah.
like they still have to do the meditation. Like they got to put in
Great
the work.
example.
Like,
Bingo. Yes.
no, there's no, I mean, you think
I
about,
do my 50%. If you don't do your 50%, well, it's up to you. I've given you like a golden key to like spectacular growth. If you don't want to use it, if you don't want to open that door every day, then the door just gets rusty and you never use the instrument.
yeah, because I could see now, especially as we get more technological,
No.
now everybody wants, well, if I can just wear a device and it'll make me
Yeah.
meditate in,
And
1 minute or
I owned
Neuralink or
every
something.
possible devices. Yeah, like I think I shared with you a story when I got stopped at the airport in Munich. I got pulled over for check. Like they asked me to open the luggage, and I was carry on. I was carrying with myself QEEG, basically neuromodulation. Like there are electrodes that you connect to your brain, and you train specific waves in your brain. But because it had so many wires, I thought it was a great idea to use electric duct tape to organize them, and it was packed in an industrial casing, that has this padding. And like I opened the luggage, and there's this case, right, industrial case. Like the German dude, the German whatever you call them, like police, border police, his eyes went like, I've never seen eyes go so wide. And he's like, what? Like he's like almost calling like the guys with guns. He's like, what is this? And I was like, I have problems with my head. This is a medical device. And he was like, okay, this guy clearly has problems with his head. And I open it, and there's all these wires and it's electric tapes coming out. And he's like, wow, this guy is crazy. Okay, it's fine. That does look like a bomb, but not a bomb. Then he's like, okay, open the second half of the carry-on luggage. And I opened the second part of carry-on luggage, and there are around 5,000 pills of different colors in little bags, in little Ziplocs, because it was all vitamins, right, or
Yeah.
supplements. But because the bottles take up so much space, I thought it was a great idea to empty them in a tiny Ziploc bags, and like each has like 10 pills. And there's literally like hundreds of those bags. of like pills of different colors. And the guy, his eyes go wide again. He's like, and he can't even say anything. I was like, okay, relax. This is supplements. And he's like, what? Supplements. And in Germany, like, he cannot understand. I was like, vitamins. The next thing that came out of him, I was like, that's when I actually relaxed, because I was super stressed out. I thought they're gonna like literally
Oh
handcuff me
yeah.
and take me away. And I was like, vitamins. And he goes, have you tried apples? And I was like, okay, and that actually put on a bulb, like turned on a bulb in my hand. I was like, what is wrong with me that I need all this weird stuff to be okay? And by the way, all that was me buying pills, right? The devices, the supplements. I was not taking full responsibility. I was trying to delegate it rather than changing fundamental issues in my lifestyle and a bunch of other things that were unfolding. I was trying to cover it up with all these supplements to give myself boost, and with this device to give whatever. So yeah, that's the story of Munich Airport.
Yeah, nothing like having a couple hundred dime bags on you. Yeah, you aren't a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Question. How much of suffering is predetermined by the matrix as a way of growth versus manufactured by self?
Excellent question. First of all, I'll start with everyone who loads here actually chooses the karmic load. The higher the karmic load is, the higher already there is a higher predisposition of suffering. And very powerful souls like to choose extreme settings for loading because the more crap you can harmonize and unravel through incarnation, the more brownie points of evolution gets registered in a soul. So the further, the bigger and more advanced you get. So with that said, the soul has to be also very thoughtful, because if it goes too much, then the avatar does not succeed in the mission, and that experience doesn't register because the avatar just breaks under the suffering or the challenges and etc. I don't know, commits suicide, or just like gets into such a shitty place where the avatar becomes useless, right? Like super addicted to drugs or whatever else, or has major injuries or major psychological problems where avatar does not perform or stops evolving. So there's that setting, and when we work with somebody, we actually check that setting to ensure to see how like hardcore the setting is. I'd say for most people we work with, the setting is somewhere between medium to intermediate to intermediate hard. Very few are hard. Once again, we predominantly work with more advanced souls. Hence, that's it's like self-selection process. There are a bunch of souls, younger souls, or let's call it intermediate souls, that load with much easier settings. And among our clients, we've seen like light settings on that end. So that's one aspect. So there is already, let's call it, a predetermined setting. And by the way, when I say the soul chose, coming back to responsibility, the key thing here is to say, I chose it. Because the structure of this being is mind with this body, with this meat bag, right? Soul and spirit. They're not separate. It's one. So the challenge is that until we fully synchronize with those structures, there is this mind's ego subconscious program is to blame somebody external. And that's what actually blocks synchronization until we consciously start choosing to say, I chose this experience. That's when we start synchronizing with soul and spirit. Because at the end of the day, we chose that experience. By me, like by I chose that experience, I mean, some part of me that I'm not fully synchronized with chose this experience. Or some part of my subconscious is playing out this experience in the matrix for me. So I learned something. So at the end of the day, I chose it. The fact that I'm not connected to that part of subconscious, that's the point of growth. And by the way, the way to connect to that part of subconscious is to accept that this is a growth experience. And when you go into it, I was like, oh, so this part of subconscious keeps creating this experience. So I get better, let's say, interacting with energy of money, interacting with energy of children, interacting with energy of leaders, interacting with whatever energy. So at the end of the day, it's designed for growth. So that's why it comes back to this taking this full responsibility. So that's one, the setting. The second part that makes things harsher or increase suffering, the avatar, okay, so loaded, the avatar is going through life, and the lesson is served. It's like, oh, it's not me. The world screwed me over. Okay, like Super Mario, you keep going. And it's like another lesson is heard, but now it's harsher. And there's like, oh, it's not me, it's the world. It's a problem with the world. The world is fucked up. The other people are bad. This is the person who took all my money. This person is bad. It's not me. Okay. The next experience, even harsher. So basically, the way Matrix works, it increases the harshness of the experience so that you finally stop in your tracks and say, okay, I take responsibility. I need to do something. I need to change something, so I don't keep going through the same experience with different decoration. So like, I think great example, people like keep going through like toxic relationship, and they keep blaming the partner. Oh, all these people are toxic. There are no people who are not toxic, and I cannot attract them. I cannot, like, they don't exist. All men are toxic, or all women are toxic, right? Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? And that's the part that people don't like to do.
Got it. Yeah. It's interesting how those patterns keep showing up over and over and over again for people, right?
Well, and that's why one thing I recommend is that makes things easier. Write out the inventory of them and just accept the status quo. So the biggest thing that stopped my growth, because I was resisting, I didn't want to accept that my life was where it was, that I was having panic attacks, my marriage was falling apart. Okay, the company at that point was growing. At least I could pat myself in the back about that. Everything else in my life kind of sucked. My health was falling apart. So I didn't want to accept that. And I thought the way out of it is not to accept it. Is like resisted, and I'll push my no. I was like, okay, that is. And by the way, what taught me that, I had some concussions, and there were moments in reality, because medical field does not understand concussions deeply. There's the knowledge about concussions is so subpar now, but whatever. Now it's finally growing. The real understanding of what's happening in the head and etc. Since nobody understood, I went to the top neurologists who are dealing with NHL players in Canada, right? And they're like, oh, you should just sleep for 6 months. It's like, what do you mean sleep for 6 months? I run a 200-person company. What kind of sleep for 6 months you're talking about? I was like, no, that's the only solution we got for you. That's what NHL players do. I was like, well, clearly that is not an option. So I continued searching and I found solutions. But where I'm going with that's what taught me acceptance. And I was like, there was a moment where I had to accept, you know what? Maybe basically by saying sleep, I said they were saying sit in a dark room, and don't look at the computer, don't look at any screen, don't interact, and etc.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that is my status quo. I might need to sit in a dark room for 6 months. I accept that, and I will start doing that. But I will not give up. I will look for a solution, and I found the solution. I found through this weird chain of events, through some random chiropractor in Silicon Valley, because I went to some retirement age anti-aging meetup in Palo Alto. I met some weird people who drink. Well, now it's becoming popular. Who drink the chemical for cleansing swimming pools, whatever it's called, that blue liquid. What is it called? Something blue, whatever.
Methylene blue.
Methylene blue. That I'm talking about. That was, I don't know, 12 years ago, before any of this was cool. People were already drinking swimming pool cleaners and seeing some good results. So through that meetup, so basically I got connected to a radiologist who invented the first stand-up MRI. And because when people do MRI to look at at the concussion. There is overaccumulation of liquid in the skull that starts pressuring the brain, and it creates a havoc. Basically, you're foggy, you have headaches, like dizziness, and blah blah blah. When you do the MRI lying down, they couldn't catch what he caught randomly when because he invented the stand-up MRI and started doing all types of tests. He wasn't even looking for anything, and then he started discovering these solutions to all the problems that nobody could find solutions to. So when you actually do, because basically when you do a sit-up stand-up MRI, the way the seed discs are located or positioned shows where the issue is. They were actually from concussions. They're not concussion, they're twisted, block cerebrospinal fluid flow, and bunch of other issues, pushes on the nerve. When you lie down, they stretch out. So you cannot
Ah.
spot that. So, and this is an example where I'm like, I accepted that is my life. This is where I stand. And from a place of acceptance rather than resistance, because when you resist, you drain so much energy. And when there is already not much energy and you're foggy and etc., you don't have anything to change. So what I recommend to everyone, you create inventory of your life and you just fully accept that's your life today and fall in love with that version. I was like, okay, I might never resolve this concussion issue forever, and I'm going to create the best life I can with these limitations. And as soon as I accept it, that means I took responsibility where I am, who I am at this point in time. From there, I started having energy to start introducing changes and real foundational changes and transformation. So when you have that list, when you accept it, you're not wasting energy running away from things, which spends a lot of energy. Then you're like, you know what? That's my life, and I'll make best out of it. And I had to do it multiple times through that experience. It started with that. Then it started with like other issues in life, panic attacks, blah, blah, blah. And every time I accepted it, I was like, yeah, that's me. And I brought myself here. Well, like I did very hardcore wakeboarding where I didn't give a shit how many times I fell. And I kept pushing the jumps where I kept getting like 5 concussions in a session, you know?
Mm.
Like I did that, not
Yeah.
like, you know. So inventory, accept, and from there, accept that it's your life today and find joy, whichever joy left in that version of life. Because they're always positive, because I was like, I'll sit in a room. I'll sit in a room. I'll meditate a lot. That's a positive. It's like I always wanted to meditate a lot, right? There's always positive in everything, but people don't find them because they resist. They try. They're constantly in a state of avoidance or running away.
Good stuff. So when we are looking
Oh,
to
by the
create,
way, let me just add one more example
yep.
here. Sorry to interrupt. I have a friend who had to really accept a very challenging situation. Basically, he got into a car accident, and he was the driver, and his friend was sitting, and his friend died. And it was like a free car accident. And the way the legal system in that country worked, where even though like everybody said like it's not his responsibility, things played out in a way where he was basically going to jail. And he tried to do anything and everything possible, and like top lawyers, blah blah blah, went through like extensive experience trying to navigate this. But the way Matrix was playing that out, it was just not letting him off the hook. Like the way like some new legislature that was coming out, the like what was like top of mind in the society and what they were pushing and like kind of punishing people for. So like he ended up in this perfect storm per se, and then he accepted that it's fine. I will go. I'm going to jail, and he started preparing himself. And they told him already the date and etc. And it was like, yeah, and like full acceptance, and started preparing himself. Started like seeing the positives in it, like read books, meditate, like like he was building businesses. He was like super busy. And then the Matrix started playing out the opposite. The new legislature started publishing. They shaved off like something delayed him going to jail. Then something else passed, something shaved off some time. And then basically more and more happened where they basically said, you know what? you actually don't need to go anymore. With all these new legislature, with this and this and this, we'll just give you like, I don't remember, like community service or something like that. And he never went.
Oh, wow.
But when he was resisting, not accepting, no, this is not happening to me, this is not me, blah, 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 blah. And like, it kind of makes sense because like honestly he was not at fault. It was like some crazy wind, sand came in, the car like twisted and like went off the road, and like he was perfectly fine. And it was like it was not super dramatic or critical car accident. It's just the way things played out, right?
Yeah.
So and this is the example of whatever you're facing in life, find that acceptance and start, because as soon as you find that acceptance, you finally accept where you are here and now. And that is your foundation. You cannot build anything from illusionary foundation. Almost everyone on this planet lives in an off illusionary foundation. They like brainwash themselves. Oh, like yeah, like I have so many assets and I have so many relationships, and they're like live in this imaginary world. My relationship with my wife or husband is better than I think. You know, like they're like everybody was sold on being in a state of being hopeful, but
Mm.
hopeful, that is not solid foundation. That is just illusion. So as soon as there is an inventory done and as soon as there is full acceptance, then you're standing on a solid rock from which you can actually move forward by choosing to change. And that's, by the way, when you do this acceptance, that's, at least in my life, the first time where I took responsibility for my whole life. It's like, that's where I stand. That is my life. And like whichever way, consciously, unconsciously, that's where I created. In some scenarios consciously, in some scenarios very unconsciously. That's where I stand. And things became so much easier because I stopped lying to myself and I stopped lying to people. And building businesses, everybody's measuring their dicks, you know, and like everybody's
Yep.
trying to be bigger than themselves and blah blah blah. There was so much illusion built up. And then it's like you also, not only you're good at business, you got to pretend you're good at everything else in life, right? Look, I'm doing sports, my relationship is good, and blah blah blah. And in reality, when it all starts crumbling, it's super difficult to release it. I was like, no, I have to keep up the facade. And the easiest way is what I just shared.
Man. So, yeah, if we want to make a change, or we're looking to make a change, right? Like which area or which vector do we start? Like are we starting with thoughts? Are we starting with actions? Are we starting with prayer? Are we looking to start with, reprogramming our mind? Is it something else? Like where's the first place we go?
Well, number one is first inventory of the issues. So what are the issues? And then prioritize them based on the one that causing the most discomfort. That's bringing the most discomfort in life. And then basically set an intention to for universe to show you the tools to navigate this. And for everyone, since everybody is different, for everyone those modalities will be different because their readiness is different, their mix of energies is different, everything is different. So that's why I'm like talking about inventory. Here's the inventory, here's where I stand. That those usually, when people will write inventory, that's going to be their issues.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the one that bothering me the most. Okay, let's start with this. And the reason it's important to do the whole inventory, because at least you've accepted that the other parts of life where they stand too. So they're not sucking energy out of you, because sometimes people do inventory just, let's say, in a relationship but not everywhere else, and they're like playing the pretend game. I was like, oh, that's not true, my relationship with children is, it's fine, versus nah, it's mediocre, I accept that it's mediocre, but let's say I got a fixed relationship with my wife first, and then I'll get to children, then I'll get to business, whatever it is, whatever is occupying, taking the most energy. And for everybody will be different. And then once you got there, it's like, okay, I'm going to deal, let's say, with the business first. I like, universe, show me what are the best modalities, or just start calling people. I was like, hey, I'm having this issue. What did you do? Any coaches, any programs, anything you recommend? And you just start trying. And then intuitively, it will lead you to a place where you'll solve that, and or it will start becoming better. Then you're like, you know what, this is now solid. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to the next one. And of course, each topic is broad, right? We can take business and it could be 5 issues and five
Yeah.
major issues in the business. So, okay, we take business. What is number one issue? Let's lean into, let's first of all accept that's where the business is. Okay, that's fine. And, and that also allows, that prevents of ending up in these downward uh, thought and emotional spirals. Everything is bad. Once you've accepted where everything is, it's not pulling you down anymore because you've accepted that's where it is.
Yeah.
Whereas until you accept it, it's constantly pulling you down, constantly takes you, and it always comes out of out of nowhere. Like it seems like you're going through your life, and then you remember, like, oh, my email list, I cannot use it anymore, and that's a depression kicked in, and now it's projected into everything else in life, right? It was only email list, now it's this and that and everything, but in reality, it was fine. It just, now the person starts looking at the at life, at the whole life through a negative lens.
Mm. Yeah. And then thinking about different minds, right? So is or do you think that our subconscious mind is the cause of, all pain and limitation, or does the subconscious become the starting point? Or, you know, if we're looking at, okay, we've got self-conscious mind, we have subconscious mind, we have superconscious, like are there other levels of mind that we're unaware of that are affecting us? It's
Well,
almost like a two-part question.
yeah, I would actually answer this differently. It's less about our subconscious, conscious, whatever mind. It's as Buddhists say, your illusion of what you think your life is and reality of your life. This like illusion minus reality, that delta is amount of suffering. And because we live in a society that sells illusion left and right, people got used to living in illusionary life and pretending that, let's say, they're better, their aspect of life is better than it is, and like, because everybody sees Instagram, you gotta level up to, okay, finally people are realizing all Instagram is fake, and all those people that are showing their life is just suffering and their health is bad look pretty because of the filters, not because that's how they actually look in life, and the list goes on. So that illusionary life was pushed so far, hence the suffering increased so much, because the delta got so much bigger between what life actually is and what people pretend their life to be or desire their life to be. So that's where the most of the suffering comes from. As soon as there is this inventory and acceptance, honest acceptance of where a person is, a lot of suffering disappears. Then the person transitions from destructive suffering to constructive suffering, which is the discomfort of growth and expansion. And that's the type of suffering. I don't even call it suffering anymore. I call it discomfort that I experience mostly now, if any discomfort, because it's from growth. Because when my energetic channel is expanding, when something is expanding, it's uncomfortable. The structure is rebuilding. When I'm facing some kind of challenging situation, it's because it's creating opportunity for me to grow. So I go into the challenging situation with excitement, because I was like, oh wow, this will allow me to develop either new skills or to harmonize something, some kind of fear of me going into that situation, and etc. So that the mind shift completely shifts. But for that, there needs to be this foundation of where a person stands. So yeah, I don't know what I don't know. I suck in many parts of life. Yeah, this is a mess. That is a mess. Okay, that's the inventory. That's where I am. That's where I stand. And now let's start making small steps forward. Whereas while there is this illusion and reality, that's what creates most of the suffering day to day. So if you remove that destructive suffering, then the suffering that's left is constructive, is a suffering that is pushing the person first gently, then maybe a little bit harsher, to expand, to grow, to learn.
And so what is the subconscious mind in your estimation, like, or what are the parts of our mind that we are unaware of or can't feel, notice, see, and how it's running software in the background, so to speak?
Yeah, this is a great question. So the reason also this inventory is important is because when we say, oh, it's not me, it's someone else, blaming an external world, blaming an external person, and etc., we're basically not willing to look into our subconscious. We're saying it's somebody else. But in reality, everything in our life is created by us.
Hmm.
We are creators of our immediate immediate experience, like who we meet, who we interact with, if somebody I don't know, if you get into a car accident or not, all that immediate reality, we're in charge of that. So anytime we refuse that, being the creator, we're saying we're not willing to look into our subconscious, because I don't know the logical linear a happened, then B happened, then C happened. Since I don't understand how I got, let's say, how a person got into a car accident, then it's not me. No, it just you haven't figured out why it happened and how you've created that. And that's that subconscious. That's the subconscious trying to shine the light on itself by creating those events. So really, the subconscious is the, let's call it, the part of your conscious that you don't know how to manage yet. And by looking there, you learn how to manage it. So you become a conscious creator, and you tell that subconscious part, I don't need any more car accidents. I got the lesson. And now you manage that part of a subconscious. Otherwise, it will create car accidents or whatever until you finally look there, until you understand how it works, until you harmonize interaction with that energy. So in reality, if I would simplify it, think like subconscious are like different modules, right? And one module is, let's say, working with in your scenario, interacting with the energy of money. And it's like, oh, every time I deal with it, something goes wrong. I'm not willing to look into this module, right? So that module is part of your subconscious, keeps creating experiences where money is being taken from you, investments failing or whatever, right? You're like, you get so fed up and it's like, okay, finally I want to look there. You start looking there and it's like, okay, I need to figure out how to use this module. And you start learning how to use that module, and you learn how to use that module. Now it shifts from subconscious to your conscious. So now when you interact with energy of money, you interact with it consciously and constructively, because it doesn't trigger you. So you don't go in automated avoidance or looking away. Oh, I don't want to look there. Oh, I just want to avoid. It will self-resolve. So that's really the only difference.
Hmm. Okay.
And not willing to look into, that's where where some of the suffering happens, because like it's like best is like, okay, this part of life is not working out. I want to look into it. I take full responsibility that some part of me that I don't understand yet is creating this. I take responsibility. I want to look into it. And when you start looking into it, now Matrix backs off and stops making the experiences harsher and harsher. So as long as even if you're making baby steps, the Matrix is like, okay, the person is progressing. We don't need to harshen up the experiences. They're progressing. They're making, they're learning what they're supposed to learn, and etc. And that changes the livable experience, because yeah, there will still be triggering events, but they will not be as dramatic or as destructive as they could have been if you're not paying attention to it.
Does Matrix want you to go through these events at a specific pace, or is Matrix more interested that you're just looking at it in its totality?
Well, it's less Matrix, is more the soul, because the soul is like managing through the Matrix, because the soul is ultimately what's getting this experience by harmonizing, or let's say becoming aware and conscious of all these modules. You're basically uploading the expanded experience to the soul. The soul becomes more advanced, and that's what we call consciousness. So basically, your consciousness becomes more advanced. Hence, your consciousness is kind of managing the process. And so fast or not fast, it all depends, because every avatar is different. One avatar is more skilled in evolution than the other, just because of the mix of energies. And hence, the soul or the consciousness can be looking at avatars like, wow, this person is making progress. Let's increase the amount of experiences they can learn faster, and we can even fit in other things in life. Versus the person is struggling, it's like, okay, that's the person, that's the pace the person is going. So as long as there is evolution, let's and there is progress, let's back off a little bit. That's the comfortable pace for this avatar. And one thing I did, because I had subpersonality of overachiever, when I went into all this transformational work on myself, I wanted everything faster. And the experience sucked. It really sucked, because like I was in bed hurting. I was emotionally, thoughtfully unstable, like psychologically unstable, because so much was shifting. I didn't understand where up and down was. And then finally I got to a point I was like, I'm not enjoying this. I got to change this to enjoy it. So I was like, I want to do all this growth, and I want to do all this transformation, but comfortably. And that's what I'm experiencing now. Even though I experience these discomforts, they're tiny. They're like 3 out of 10 comparing to what I experienced like 9, 11 out of 10 before. But that's when my overachiever subpersonality worked. More, faster, I don't care, I will suffer, I just want to get through this as fast as I can. But then I've learned a very important insight. Evolution never stops. So I can be living in that state of suffering, overachieving forever, because if I complete this incarnation program in this life, the new one loads in and I don't have to die. So it's not like I complete it. If I complete it and I want to stop evolving, then and not willing to take on the next program, then the soul goes, well, supporting this body is useless because it's just going to sit and do nothing.
Yeah.
Time to die. And then when I learned that the evolution is infinite, you're like, okay, I want to do evolution infinitely, comfortably.
Yeah.
And then the skill of and then I'd say I developed the skill and wisdom of transformation. Yeah, I'm willing to go into challenging situations. I'm willing to face the darkest parts of me, etc., etc. But at the same time, I'm not in a rush. So why don't we spread those things out in a way where I also can enjoy life? And that's, by the way, what I started also observing. Previously, I could be in bed for 3 weeks dealing with energetic shifts. I couldn't even step outside. Like I couldn't move. Now it's like nicely mixed. Like I could sit on the couch for 3 days while like major shifts are happening, and there's some like 3 out of 10 discomfort. Sometimes goes up to 5 out of 10 for a day, and that's perfectly fine. Better than 11 out of 10. And then I go, let's say like recently I went for a nice drive through the country, stopped in my favorite spots, enjoyed that. Then I hang out with friends and have beers in the bar, so it's like, it's nicely mixed up, the experience. So, okay, the few days of transformation, some social days, some day of creativity, like I don't know, create new product or work on presentations or something like that. So when it's mixed like this, it becomes more enjoyable because now the experiences are very diverse. So there is a way to create that, to make, when you set an intention that, hey, I want to do this comfortably, guide me through this. And when you're saying this literally to your consciousness or your soul and spirit,
Yeah.
I'm willing to do the work. Show me how, and like, let's make it as comfortable as possible.
I like it. 5-star transformation. That's what we need. All right. Well, that wraps for this week. I want myself some 5-star transformation. I can tell you that.
Here you go. You're aligning with it. You're making a lot of progress.
All right. Well, until next week, same time, same channel, same matrix.
Till next one. And not fully same matrix. We're shifting from matrix 5th and 6th, and it's more and more every day. It's 6th matrix. So different matrix.
Different matrix. Different matrix.
Yeah.